The
Not
Giants
first
and
place in the NFC East, but they're right there.
it's wild. The Giants and Daniel Jones did what they need to do, unlike the Cardinals and Kyler Murray, and we'll get into that in a second as well too. A lot to get into today. We have our winners and losers from Week 5. We know there's still a game going on tonight. To cap it all off, we have the Raiders taking on the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. That's going to be fun. We'll get into that at the end of the show with Bobby Stanley. We have college football early birds and our reactions from Week 6 over the weekend. NFL updated win totals because some of these teams are exceeding expectations while others are massively failing expectations. So let's get right into it. Let's bet it, presented by Superbook Sports. Updated win totals. Let's start it off with the Vikings right now. Their win total was set at 11.5 at the beginning of the season. Currently 4-1. They won against the Bears by 1 score. Your thoughts on that game? Because I really thought that the Vikings were going to blow the Bears out of the water, and it ended up being a lot closer of game than people thought.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the numbers there. I thought Justin Fields played better than a lot of people expected. He was in the top half of the league in success rate for quarterbacks yesterday. I think Kirk Cousins played well. You know, the overall numbers maybe didn't look it, but again, the nerd numbers that I dive into on a morning, daily basis were okay. You know, he didn't throw for 300 yards. He threw an interception. They were not really, in that game in terms of extending the lead and keeping it. They took the lead and they gave up the lead. And there was a moment in that game where you thought they were going to lose, but Kirk Cousins did what they had to do. And the success rate, again, I judge quarterbacks based off of that EPA plus CPOE, expected points added, completion percentage over expectation, composite number, and then the success rate. The success rate was high, other than Taysom Hill, which is it's really hard to put him in the category of quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins had the highest success rate of any quarterback yesterday. So impressive performance by him. And the Vikings did what they had to do. They beat a divisional team. And after the Packers lost, we told you to bet on the Vikings after they lost that game a couple weeks ago because Green Bay is a little bit And right now it's the Minnesota Vikings, number 1 team in the NFC North, excuse me.
The Packers are frauds, and I'm going to get into that in a second, too. We're going to talk about winners and losers from Week 5. The Packers' 3-1 record, fraudulent. They need to go to jail for that. But anyways, okay, let's talk about the Giants.
Right to jail.
The team that got it done this week. Over-under was set at 8.5. Currently 4-1. Is the NFC East the toughest division in the NFL right now? The Eagles are undefeated. The Cowboys are also 4-1. I know the Commanders obviously are not up there. But these 3 teams are extremely solid this season. And to a lot of people's dismay, the Cowboys and the Giants, Cowboys after losing Dak Prescott, let me restate myself, and the Giants the entire season have been exceeding expectations at this point. The Cowboys and Giants are tied for the 2nd spot in the NFC East, only behind the Eagles because they're undefeated.
Yeah, I mean, they've got 3 teams that are plus point differential, obviously win-loss record. Sometimes the win-loss record doesn't always correlate to point differential. We've discussed this before. Wins matter. Point differential is important. And then the third layer is the analytics. I would say the NFC East right now, based off of all 3 of those layers, pretty damn good. The one thing I will say with the Giants, I don't want to call it smoke and mirrors. I think it's more coaching than talent. I think the Giants don't have a ton of individual Pro Bowl talent on their roster, but they might be the best coach team in the league. The Cowboys and the Eagles have a ton of Pro Bowl, Hall of Fame kind of talent, offensive line, defensive line, receiver, and the coaching is starting to live up to those standards. I'd put Dan Quinn at the top of the list right now for guys that deserve a raise, maybe another head coaching job. I mean, what he's done with that Dallas defense, I know you're very high on your Cowboys, is very impressive.
I'll get into that.
And you've got to give Nick Sirianni a lot of credit, and Jonathan Gannon, and Jalen Hurts. That was a game that you could have seen in prior years. I could have seen last year the Cardinals win that game. And the Eagles, don't make all the plays late, and Jalen Hurts is a little inefficient, but took a step forward, had a late drive, scored the game-winning field goal, and was able to hold things served defensively. So, yeah, the NFC East right now, pretty damn good.
Really good.
Bet over that Giants win total. That's for goddamn sure.
Last year, going into the NFC East, it's like this is kind of a division that no one's really looking at. This season, they've exceeded all expectations, and it's been really fun to watch. The Eagles' updated win total right now is set at 13.5. They're 5-0,
Wow.
the only undefeated team in the NFL. The Panthers, though, and I know that we're going to get into your biggest loser from week 5, and he's been my biggest loser all season because I bet him to be the first head coach to be fired in the NFL, is the Carolina Panthers. Their win total updated, set at 5.5, now 1-4. Is Baker Mayfield done? Is he done? They got destroyed by the Niners yesterday.
I'm going to reserve my take for when I do my biggest loser, but things are not good in Carolina right now. Not good. No bueno. No bueno.
Absolute dumpster fire, as we like to call it. Yeah. So let's get into the winners and losers because I know everyone's waiting for it. I am very passionate about how I feel about my winners.
I'm excited to hear this.
I have 4 winners, actually. I only put 2 winners in our Google sheet, but I actually have 4 winners, so we'll go through the whole slate.
Jeez,
I want to start it off with the Cowboys. I know. I have a lot of feelings after yesterday.
Going bananas today. Feelings. She's ready to go ham on this league.
The Cowboys
I'm just gonna sit back here and listen.
The Cowboys are enjoying the journey right now, and so is Micah Parsons. He is so stinking good. This is a team with a championship caliber defense. They're the best D-line in the NFL since like the early 2000s. I cannot take you seriously when you go like that. Their D-line, their speed, their movement, the way they use guys. I feel like teams are coming in to play against the Cowboys, and they do not want to go up against Dallas's D-line. They're winning the individual battles every single time, and they are so freaking good. They won their 4th straight game against the reigning Super Bowl champs, but their 4th straight game so far this season. This is their first time allowing fewer than 20 points in each of the first 5 games of the season since 1972. It's been 50 plus years since then. Cooper Rush. I'm not going to be like, wow, Cooper Rush is this phenomenal guy, but he has done enough to hold this offense together and push them along. I'm not going to say like he's amazing, he's phenomenal, but once Dak is back, you have a phenomenal quarterback paired with a championship caliber defense. And to be honest with you, I know we were all shitting on Mike McCarthy a lot last season, and after, the first week, he deserves some credit here. He's showing that he can coach, and he's doing a really good job of coaching this team right now. But you look at their defense, they have a strip sack fumble for the first touchdown of the game. The next drive, they blocked a punt. They go up 10-0. The only big play they allowed was to Cooper Kupp, who you can't really hold off for 4 straight quarters, right? But Micah Parsons is the best player in the National Football League. I mean, I'm done. Enough said. The biggest winner is the Cowboys defense for me this week. What do you think?
I think Dan Quinn deserves another head coaching job based off of this performance of this defense. Now, again, to be fair, it's when you have really good players, arguably the best. You're right. Maybe the best player in the league, nose to toes, pound for pound. Makes it a little easier, but you still got to put them in the right place. You still got to make sure that they're doing the right thing. And right now, the defenses in the league that have the best success rate, Niners 1, Cowboys 2. I mean, if you were going to ask me today who have the 2 best defenses in the league, I think those would be my 2 choices. And I think both of those defenses, man, oh man, what would a total be between the Niners and the Cowboys with imagine if it was a Trey Lance
25
Cooper Rush.
25
Trey Lance
maybe?
Versus I know I hope he gets improved, but let's just live in a hypothetical world. Trey Lance Cooper Rush Niners Cowboys game on a neutral field. Maybe it would be 30. It might be like 32 or something. It might be like the lowest total in like the history of the NFL. But yes,
literally
Cowboys are I have nothing bad to say other than could you have maybe just not strip sack fumble Matthew Stafford on the first drive, just sack, punt, and then our first half under would have hit? It had to be a strip sack fumble touchdown. Like, I knew it second that it was 3rd and forever. And I was like, Matthew Stafford, just if you get sacked, just go down. He gets sacked, the ball pops out. And my first half under goes down.
Matthew Stafford doing what he does best, what I've watched for the last 30 plus years with the or not, he doesn't play for 30 years, but what I've watched for the last 10 plus years, 30 plus years. Yeah, Matthew Stafford, 60 years old.
Feels like he's been in the league that long.
But honestly, he's doing what he does best, and he's turning the ball over. So I'll go quickly through my
another
other
pick
winners.
yesterday,
Bills
too.
Proving they're the best team. I know. The Bills are proving they're the best team in the NFL. Unreal this weekend. 2 quarters, Josh Allen had 348 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. Come on, man. The Buffalo defense also held Kenny Pickett and the Steelers to 139 total yards the entire game. Next week against Kansas City, I'm excited for their Week 6 matchup against Kansas
Oh
City. Bills
yeah,
taking on the Chiefs.
let's
That's
go.
going to be so much fun. Another winner for me, Taysom Hill. Good for him. Coming back. I know he's like, I don't want to be a tight end. But he made an impact on this team. He put the offense on his back, led them in rushing yards, 112 yards, 4 touchdowns. Seattle's defense couldn't stop him. And last but not least, Justin Tucker, man. This dude is straight freaking fire. And I love when the post-game interview is a kicker. And Melissa Stark
Oh
asked him,
yeah.
she goes, you didn't get in your head at all about going 6 of 19 during pregame on your kicks? And he goes, good thing they don't track pregame stats. So I just love Justin Tucker and his post-game interview. Good for this dude. Good for him. Honestly. Okay,
Melissa
go
Stark had
over
a
your
great
winner
post-game
because
interview there. She had
yeah.
to get. I watched
Go
that
over
interview
your
because you're
interview.
right. You don't see the kicker. You don't see the kicker too
Yeah.
often in the post-game interview. That was pretty. That
Yeah.
was pretty entertaining.
Yeah. Okay, who is your winner from week 5?
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, Brian Dable might be the best coach in the league, doing more with less. Again, we talked about it off the top. The Giants team, top to bottom, 53-man roster, it maybe is a bottom 10 talent. Like if you graded out each individual player, Daniel Jones, the wide receivers, you got Saquon Barkley. I mean, he's a generational kind of talent. But the defense yesterday was without Leonard Williams, who's their best player on defense. They've got some holes in the secondary. I thought Xavier McKinney played really well, especially with Aaron Rodgers. He loves to move the eyes and make you really guess in the backfield. But I think the Giants secondary did what they had to do yesterday, and Brian Dable just continues to make adjustments and make teams better, make his team better throughout the course of the game. Packers, I think, had it was either a 10 or a 17-point lead at one point. Giants came back 17-0 second half until the safety, which was meaningless. But really, for all effective purposes, the Giants outscored the Packers 17-0 in the second half. That's all coaching and adjustments at halftime. And it's a little bit, it's a little smoke and mirrors because, again, I don't think this Giants offense is overly talented. There's not a lot of talent at wide receiver. They're all playing below expectations. Daniel Jones is turnover happy at times. Saquon Barkley's the one exception here. He's the one wow factor. At any moment, he can break one. But overall, I think it's very fair to say that the Giants, other than Washington, have the least talent in their division, and yet they're contending for the division title right now. I think, to me, Brian Dable gets a ton of credit for that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I agree with you here, too. And honestly, a lot of that with their offense, I know you say games are won in the trenches, right? Their O-line is phenomenal. And they did really good job opening up gaps for a guy like Saquon Barkley. They did a really good job holding off the Packers, front 4, front 5 for Daniel Jones, who is working with a high ankle sprain right now. Like, they gave him time.
That was even
to
more
do what
impressive.
He needed to do.
You're right.
And
we didn't even know if he was going to play this week.
It's actually really cool. It's really cool. So their O-line coach, it's my brother's girlfriend's dad. So I watch them really closely, obviously, because because he's coaching them. So he was at Buffalo under Brian Dable, obviously, and then Dable brought him over to the Giants, a bigger challenge for him. But I think that they're doing a really good job, that entire coaching staff. And that all stems, you're right, from a guy like Brian Dable. Okay, let's talk about biggest loser, and then we're going to bring in Bobby Stanley right after this to chat Monday Night Football. Biggest losers for week 5. Let's go with you first because I got a lot to say about this guy too.
Yeah. Well, I'll tie the bow on Dable and just say that the Giants, I mean, you go from Spagnuolo to McAdoo to Shermer to Joe Judge, and then you bring in Dable. I mean, and in New York, trust me, breath of fresh air. All right, biggest loser. I got to go Matt Rule here. So what?
Yes.
I have to. The Panthers are now 1-27 when the opponent scores 17 or more, 25 consecutive losses. And Rule's quote in the presser is like, yeah, our offense has to score more points. Yeah, no shit. You think our offense has to score more points? You're 0-25 the last 25 games when the opponent scores 17. which means you're not scoring 17. That's terrible. I don't have
Yeah.
anything else to say other than if I'm Matt Rule, I'm throwing the kitchen sink at the game plan this week. PJ Walker, I would put if Sam Darnold's not healthy, which I'm hearing he's not, I'd start PJ Walker. I would change up everything. You have nothing to lose, Matt, other than your job, which in my opinion is already lost. But you have nothing to lose this week. I don't even know who the Panthers play this week, which is a great question. Let's take a look. Carolina is at the Rams this week. They're at the Rams this week. Oh, no. Oh, no. Aaron Donald is going to eat.
You hate to see it.
Aaron Donald is probably sitting in his apartment or house right now. He definitely does not live in an apartment. Silly me. And he is licking his chops like this.
Sack lunch. No.
Matt Rule. Oh, Baker Mayfield.
Jared, right now, I want to rewind to the beginning of the season where I said before week 1, if I could bet on a coach right now to be the first coach fired heading into this NFL season, it would be Matt Rule. Guess what? The odds right now, Matt Rule is the favorite right now to be fired at -200. The next closest coach is Nathaniel Hackett at 6 to 1 odds. Not even anyone close. Not even anyone close to him at this point. So Matt Rule, -200 to be the first coach to be fired in the NFL. Wow. And I actually want to just find that clip from before week 1 where I said I want to bet on it. I didn't end up doing it. I wish I would have. It was a plus money then. But it's okay. You win some and you lose some. Matt Rule continues to lose some. And hopefully we'll see them maybe win some moving forward. Okay, biggest losers for me. There's 2 teams. The Cardinals, Kyler sliding short of the first down on their sliding short of the first down on their second down during the team's final drive. Then you spike the ball on third down with 22 seconds left. And then Matt Amendola missing wide right, a 43-yard field goal to tie the game. Is that on Cliff Kingsbury or is that on Kyler Murray? Who is that on?
Both. I don't know.
What are we doing?
Probably. That was a tough sequence. Like I said, I thought the Cardinals played well enough to win that game yesterday. The Eagles played just well enough to lose it. It was that game was a coin flip. It really was. The Eagles did what they did. They started hot. They won the first half. And then they did what they usually do in the second half, which is kind of go into a little bit of a shell. I'll be honest, now that I think about that process, Sirianni maybe needs to figure out some halftime adjustments a little better because the Eagles have had some pretty rough second halves this year.
Yeah, totally. Then the other loser for me, the Packers. They lost to the Giants this weekend in London. Their 3-1 record heading into that game is fraudulent. Fraud. I call fraud. They need to be in jail. They barely beat the Bucs without Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Julio Jones. And then they have overtime next week against Bailey Zappi and the Pats. And then they couldn't get it done against the Giants. They do not deserve to be 3-1 heading into that game. They were. And now they're rightly where they need to be at 3-2. And I mean, they're done. The Packers are done. That's all I got to say. NFC North, bye. The Vikings are winning that division, hands down. Bet on them now before it moves too much. But the Packers are fraudulent at this point. They're fraudulent. And that's all I got to say about that. I'm heated up this morning. I had 3 cups of coffee.
You are. I'm just letting you go. I don't have much to add to that other than right now the Vikings are the odds-on favorite to win the North. You could have gotten them at plus 180 if you read our Back to the Futures column 2 weeks ago. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm. That's all we got to say about that. Well, let's move back to the futures, or just to the future, I guess, to tonight. We got Monday Night Football to put a nice little bow on week 5. Let's bring in Bobby Stanley, otherwise known as Prop Holliday, to talk Raiders taking on the Chiefs. This is going to be a really, really fun game at Arrowhead Stadium, divisional matchup between the two. Oh, we got our Rams gear on. Sorry.
Surprised you're wearing that hat, bud.
What is Matthew Stafford? I am so sorry.
There's no amount of Pedialyte or Liquid IV that can cure the Super Bowl hangover. It is bad, guys. Interior O-line is in shambles. The secondary is a mess. Yeah. It's all bad. But you know what? I also lived through Steve Spagnuolo, lived through Scott Linehan, lived through Jeff Fisher. I'm gonna get through this. This is not the darkest days of being a Ram.
Here's the thing. What I appreciate about you is that you still are prideful about your fandom And even after
Sure.
suffering a terrible loss yesterday, you're still rocking the gear, and I appreciate that about you. We move on to the end of week 5. Monday Night Football, the Raiders taking on the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. The total right now is set at 51, spread 7.5. When you look at this game, I know you have a lot of props going into this one. Tell me about Hunter Renfrow over 4.5 receptions.
Hunter Renfrow is back tonight. He's playing his first snap since week 2. In week 2, 10 targets and 7 receptions. And he actually gets a fairly with a nickel corner in L'Jarius Sneed. He's grabbed PFF. But he's still giving up completion. So if I'm doing my little math correctly, Hunter Renfrow needs to see 7 targets to hit this. I can remember last year, Renfro's lines were 5.5, 6.5. So I feel like I'm buying love him just coming back. I love him tonight. I love if you can get 4.5 receptions, 5 to 15. I think he much needed for this offense for him to come. So we know how important a slot wide receiver is to Josh McDaniels' offense.
I really like your Edwards-Helaire look tonight, and not because he's probably on the back end of his production level because you've got someone behind him, I think, that's been playing really well in Isaac Pacheco, but the injury update tonight with Denzel Perryman, I think, is paramount. And I also think it kind of tips the scales of the handicap of this game a little bit, but especially in the running game, I really like your spot with Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, pigs are not flying, guys. I do have an under. I like him under 48.5. I think it went down to 4.5. So the line is moving on this. He's averaging 69 yards per game, and the line opens up at 48.5. So that you can tell the books are on to something. Raiders are giving up 3.9 yards per carry. It's good for 8th best in the league. Pointed out, Jared. Inside linebacker Denzel Perryman is back. That's huge. Very, very. He's one of the better run stuffing linebackers I think in the league. Probably can't cover, but he's a very good run stuffing linebacker. Hilaire hasn't played more than 56% of the snaps in a game all season, and Pacheco just coming off his best game. So he may start chipping away at the carries for Edwards-Helaire. He's only hit this once in 3 career games against the Raiders. And if you look at the pass run split between both of these teams, it's 65-45 in favor of passing. You look at the over-under, it's at 52. We're expecting an aerial attack. I don't know if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to see that 12, 13, 14 carries that we've seen early in the season. So I'm going under on his rush total.
Bombs away, aerial attack. I want to ask you about a guy like Josh Jacobs. Over 60.5 rushing yards or under 60.5 rushing yards is what it's set at right now. I know KC's run defense is okay. They're not great. They allowed 117 rushing yards per game and 4 rushing touchdowns so far. And you look at Josh Jacobs in the way that the Raiders use him in a situation like this, because I was kind of on the fence of the over. Would you lean over or would you lean under here for this spot? Because I know he's going to lead the running game out of the backfield, but I mean, with the way that the Raiders are probably going to go up against the Chiefs secondary, like, are they going to run enough to be able to go over this number for him?
As far as a lean, it's pretty high. I'm not going to lie, especially in this kind of a game. If you're Josh McDaniels, you're going to want to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. You want to establish a run game. You want to eat up that clock. If I had a lean, I would lean over, but it's tough. It's tough. If they start getting the ball moving with Hunter Renfrow, if they start, Darren Waller not at all, move with the passing attack, I don't see why they would go. I would lean over, but I'm reluctant. It's not a spot I feel confident on either way.
Mm-hmm.
Give me your touchdown props tonight, Bobby. I was thinking about making one of these my pod. I've had a really rough luck with props this year. I like the Edwards-Helaire one. That might be the winner. But what are you laughing about, LJ? I have not. You want to know? I'll get full transparency. Here you go. Ready? I'm 0-4 in the props that I bet this year. 0-4.
It's okay.
So it hasn't
you know
been
what?
good.
Want to know what happens when you hit rock bottom, Jared? There's only one way to go, and that's
only
up.
one way to go.
You know.
So we are going to bet a prop tonight for our play of the day. It was close to being one of your touchdown props, but in lieu of that, tell me which one you like better and give me both of them, frankly.
Both of them. I mean, it is a little bit one-sided. I do like Darren Waller. I do like Hunter Renfrow. Renfrow scored in both games against Kansas City last season, so he has had success
I like that.
against this team. As far as Waller goes, I think I saw his odds at plus 250. I mean, he's a big red zone target. He's going to eat up the middle of that field. I was expecting Darren Waller to have one of the best years of his career in this offense with Devontae Adams. We've seen peaks of it. We've seen some glimpses in week one, but he's kind of tailed off. I would lean Waller and Renfro. It's too hard with the Chiefs to really hone in on a guy. They have so many weapons. They spread it around. Could it be McKinnon? Could it be Edwards-Helaire?
It's impossible to bet
Pachenko's
Chiefs
odds.
props to the over.
It's hard. It really is too hard.
Really
but
hard.
I like Renfro and I like Waller as my 2 touchdown guys tonight.
Last but not least, I am on a prop and I am locked into it, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 passing touchdowns at plus 132. A couple reasons why I'm betting this. 1, he's Patrick Mahomes. 2, he's at home. 3, it's a division rivalry. And 4, getting this at plus money. And he's thrown for 3+ touchdowns in 2 of the 4 games so far this season. Last week he did it against the Bucs, who have a much better defense and a much better secondary than the Raiders do. He threw for 5 against the Cardinals. And Patrick Mahomes is my fantasy quarterback, and I really, really need points. I'm down 45 heading into today, so I need Patty Ice to go freaking off this week.
There's your
honestly,
fantasy reference.
No,
I thought you were quitting fantasy. You tweeted out last night.
I know. I've rejuvenated myself after Justin Tucker got me like 20 points last night, so I feel a little bit better.
Kicker saved for fantasy world. What are the odds?
Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 passing touchdowns plus money plus 132. I feel like this could be a really good spot for him.
I do love it at plus money. He gave a bunch of great stats. Where the best in red zone offense, while the Raiders 9th best in red zone defense. So if you look at it, he has no problem throwing the ball inside the 20. He has no problem throwing the ball. This helps your prop a little bit more if they get close to the red zone. So I do like that. I love that it's plus money. So anything, if you get plus 132 for Mahomes at home in a division game, I'm with you. I would ride on that. Maybe half a unit, close to a unit.
Yeah, I have a full ass unit on that play, baby. Let's go. Let's go, Chiefs. Let's go, Patty Ice. Bobby Stanley, we so appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. We'll be talking to you Thursday for more Prop Holiday. Have a great day. That puts a bow on week 5. We have Monday Night Football going into today. The bow is already wrapped. Well, the present is wrapped, and the bow is already put on week 6 of college football. Let's talk about some of our takeaways from that game. I want to start with you, Jared. Who do you think at this point, after 6 weeks, is the best team in college football?
You're not going to like this, but I think it's the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think
was that shirt too tight on you the other night or the other day? Was that shirt too tight? Did it like go all the way into your head, or what's going on?
So fun story. That shirt is now sitting in the corner in the dog's bed, who is now using it as like a blanket. But if I'm going to wrap myself up with one team right now to keep me warm through these cold fall and winter months we're about to endure, I would pick the Ohio State Buckeyes. So one stat that I keep very close eye on throughout the course of the college football season, Football Outsiders does a great job with this. They line yards, which is basically a fancy way of saying how much movement does your offensive line create. Guess who's number 1 in that category? The Ohio State Buckeyes. So not only do they have who I think is the Heisman Trophy winner, barring injury, in C.J. Stroud, they have a defense that is a top 5, top 10 unit, much improved, new defensive coordinator, playing a lot better. But their offensive line is creating space and time for Stroud to throw. It's a deadly combination. And they also play in a conference where they're not going to be tested a whole lot. They've got a tough game at Penn State coming up in a few weeks. Trust me, I'll be very interested in how that one goes. And then, of course, your game against the Wolverines at the end of the year, where it's a revenge spot.
The one we all look forward to.
They got punched in the mouth in that game last year, and I'm sure it's always circled. I'm not going to say it's circled more this year because they lost. It's always circled. It's the game, literally.
2 circles around it.
The game. Yeah, like a million circles. But that's it. Like if they can figure out a way to win those 2 games, there is nothing standing between them and a number 1 seed in the college football playoff. And the way that the college football playoff is kind of morphing this year, I can target a 1. I can make an argument for 2-3 Bama, Georgia. Who's the 4th team? Who's that? The number 1 seed in the college football playoff this year. I don't want to say it's like a bye, but if you avoid the inevitable Georgia-Alabama 2-3 matchup, which it seems like we're kind of destined to get, who's 4? Clemson?
I don't know.
USC?
Maybe. Could it be a team?
CJ
Could it be a team
Stroud
from the
may convince me to
Pac-12?
those 2 teams.
UCLA? Oregon? Maybe.
TCU?
USC?
TCU? I mean, I don't know. Who wins the Big 12? Who wins the Pac-12? Who wins the ACC? That's kind of where we're going here. And my point is, you kind of give Ohio State a mini bye right into the final.
Yeah.
So the number 1 seed, whoever gets that number 1 seed in the college football playoff this year is going to be and again, I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse. Bama could lose, they could drop out and then, sneak back into the 4.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows how it'll play out. But the current track that we're on, Bama, Georgia 2-3, who's the 4? I don't know. So that is a very advantageous position to be in if you can get that 1. And right now, the only thing standing between the Ohio State Buckeyes and that number 1 seed is a road game at Penn State and then a home date against Michigan. That's it.
And right now, Michigan ain't looking too hot, too. Like, I mean, they're good, They have a lot of wins. They're undefeated. But I feel like the last couple games just made me a
Their
little...
offense is pedestrian.
Yeah, I know.
Blake Corum left, right, and center is kind of all they've got. Which is, I mean, he's had a great year. He's a Heisman Trophy candidate, but
good for him.
I don't think that's going to fly in a big
Blake
game.
Corum at this point has moved up to win the Heisman. Blake Corum has moved up to 20-1 odds right now to win the Heisman. He's the 7th favorite. CJ
We picked the wrong Michigan guy.
Yeah.
We picked McCarthy.
We picked JJ McCarthy. Yeah. Who is now at 100-1 odds to win the Heisman Trophy
he's not
as we speak. Hendon Hooker, though, a guy that's really been impressing me is Hendon Hooker in Tennessee. And Alabama, they need Bryce Young next week against the Bulls. Against Texas A&M this past weekend, they say it's about surviving and advancing. That's what Alabama did. They held them off in a last-minute goal stand to be able to win that game. Milroe, four turnovers and only 5 third-down conversions in 14 attempts. Bama could not afford turnovers against a Hendon Hooker-led Vols team. They cannot. They need Bryce Young back. Bryce Young right now, 16-1 odds to win the Heisman Trophy. He's the 4th favorite at this point. Caleb Williams, Hendon Hooker are sitting above him right now. Another thing for me is what happened to Oklahoma. Their expected scoring margin against the spread the last 3 games was plus 11. The actual scoring margin, minus 87. Kansas State, TCU, and then they get blown out by Texas. They can't even score a single point. That's wild. And then UCLA and Oregon, surprising everybody. Are they the best teams in the Pac-12 at this point? I know USC is still unbeaten. They have a big game against Utah this weekend. But UCLA, they scored 40 points and gained 499 yards on Washington, then 42 points and 502 yards against Utah. They've gone from unranked to 11th in the AP poll over the last couple of weeks. And Dorian Thompson-Robinson might be a Heisman contender at this point. He's been a huge surprise to everybody. And then you look at a team like Oregon, they were blown out by Georgia in week 1, and they dominated the 5 games since then. I don't necessarily trust their defense yet, but their offense is great. And I know that I was crapping on Bo Picks, and I kept calling him Bo Picks. He's back to being Bo Nix in my heart. He's done a really good job over the last few weeks. And their offense right now ranks 2nd in overall success rate. Oregon's really impressed me. So heading into week 7, all I got to say is if you have plans, cancel them. Baby shower, bye. Wedding, don't go. There are 6 games between ranked opponents for the first, which is the most ever in 5 years in a single day in regular season. 6 games between ranked opponents. It's going to be such a good slate. I'm so excited.
Are we doing a bet on Michigan and Penn State? It's a 7-point spread, so
I feel like we should
incorporate
this is
that.
Early, though. This is Monday. I need a few days to marinate on what I want to
Yeah, take your time.
You know what I mean?
Take your time. I'm not saying we have to, shake on it today, but, just keep it in the back of your mind that I still have the Michigan shirt in my closet from last year. You have yet to been forced to purchase any Penn State gear based off of our gambling record against them.
I don't have any yet, but I will buy.
Maybe this is the year.
Necessary.
I really wanted you to get that Nittany Lion hat with the ears.
Hat,
I think you'll look really cute in that hat with the little braids coming down.
Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that moving forward. Give me a couple days. I need to marinate on what I want to bet on.
Take your time.
But I think that could be a viable option for sure.
It's okay. I'm going to make you lay the points, though. It's not going to be like a straight up bet. That's not fair. Last year was like a
I
pick 'em
know.
game, so it made a little more sense. But, so
Yeah.
Penn State might
Yeah.
lose and you might still not win your bet. So just keep that in mind before you click
Yeah.
submit on your virtual wager with yours truly.
6 games, ranked opponents, 12 teams next week, week 7. I cannot even wait. But, we still got to wait 5 more days for it. Let's make it happen. Speaking of, Let's Bet It is presented by Superbook Sports. Make sure to go to superbook.com, download the app today. This season, guys, we are rooting for safeties. That's because Superbook is going to give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. All you have to do, place a $100 pregame bet on any spread, any total, and if there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, you get a $50 bonus. It is that easy. Make sure to visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. Let's go to Pickswise.com, Jared. 3-star play of the day. I know we have a Monday Night Football game tonight. What 3-star plays are you seeing on there?
We actually had a safety yesterday, so hopefully someone cashed in on that promotion. It was a purposeful, like they meant to take the safety.
I know
at the end of that Packers Giants game.
I just cannot. That final minute of that game drove me nuts, and I love
Superbook called down and they said, "No, don't do it. If you we have to give out free money if you take the safety." And I guess that's too bad. The sports books.
I mean, he ran to the corner. It was like in soccer at the end of the game when the team tries to take the ball to the corner and to just like keep it there to like let the time run out. I'm like, I've never seen this in the NFL.
I've seen it. It's happened a few times.
What are we doing?
It has happened a few times, but it's very rare.
What is that?
It's very rare.
What are those? Okay.
Well, they
anyway.
wanted to I understand the theory behind it. They wanted to run out as much time as possible and avoid a block, on the punt.
But why were they taking a knee? Like, why are they taking a knee? Why didn't they just run the ball from the start?
Because it was 4th down. They had to punt.
Well, I know, but like from that whole drive.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch the end to see it, but I remember the safety happening. I was like, oh man, Superbook's going to have to pay somebody out. Anyways, speaking of getting paid out, so Ricky Diamond is chiming in with a 3-star bet tonight on the Chiefs-Raiders game. I will leave it at that. You have to go to the site to check it out yourself. And also there is a soccer play on the site for tomorrow, but we'll get to that tomorrow. But that's kind of it. There's really, other than the Monday Night Football game tonight, I think there's one EPL match, Aston Villa against Nottingham Forest. That's the only other sporting event taking place in the world today besides this Chiefs-Raiders
Monday
game.
Night Football. All
eyes on Monday Night Football.
Speaking of Chiefs-Raiders, we have one prop. Not plop. I wanted to say plop plus money prop, but we have one prop from you and a side from me. So I'll let you go first. Let's hit me with your prop.
Yeah, this is a Bobby Holliday tale. Again, full disclosure,
Bobby Holliday.
Bobby Holliday. Bobby Trees. He's
Bobby
still
Stanley,
a big fan of
prop
Bobby
Holiday.
Trees. I mean, I'm calling him Bobby Holliday. Every day is a holiday when we got Bobby on the show. So, again, we're all about disclosure and transparency here on the show. I'm not a prop handicapper. I have picked a few props to tail this year based off of our other handicappers that do a much better job than me handicapping props. And I'm 0-4. I have not yet won a prop this year in the NFL. I've only bet 4 of them. They're all tails of other handicappers, but I've struggled in this department this year. So just keep that in mind before you place your bet, that I have been the kiss of death for props this season.
You're really pumping up your own tires right now. Jesus.
Well, listen. I am trying to reverse the curse, as they say.
Yeah.
Because
love it.
We are in week 5 and I have yet to win a prop in the NFL. It's embarrassing, frankly. Hopefully tonight's the night. Clyde Edwards-Helaire under. I got 49.5. Shop around. You can find a 49.5 out there in the market right now if you do your due diligence. Bobby is grading this at 48.5 on the Pickswise site. I hope neither of those numbers come into play, but obviously you want to get the best number. So I like the market analysis that Bobby analyzed here. This is a guy that's averaging almost 70 yards per game, and the prop opened at around 50. That tells me game script. That tells me target share and carry share trending down for Edwards-Helaire. We did see a solid game from him last game against the Chiefs. I mean, against the Bucks. But that was a weird game. The Bucks had this big lead, and I think they kind of just backed off defensively. And I don't think that's going to be the game script tonight. I actually think, based off of the market and the number tonight, this is going to kind of be a nip and tuck game between two divisional teams. The Raiders got blasted in both of the games last year. And I wouldn't be surprised if this game is, it's going to be closer than, I think the first game was like 48-9. Like, it's going to be closer than that. So I could see this game being a Patrick Mahomes kind of game and a Derek Carr kind of game, and not necessarily a pound the rock kind of game. And the final piece of this, which is huge, Denzel Perryman, arguably one of the best run blocking or run stopping linebackers in the league, is back tonight from a concussion for the Raiders. That is a huge get back for this Raiders defense, which has been a little bit maligned this season. All of those things taking into account, I think Bobby's look under 49.5 is where I'll grade my prop at, since I shopped around effectively supermarket sweep style, and we'll go CEH under tonight with his rushing yards.
Under. I'm taking a side, and I'm taking Kansas City laying the points at -7 at -114. Their offense, they're everything right now. They're clicking. They're running in high gear. Mahomes is tied in the NFL for the best, for the lead in passing touchdowns with 11. No Tyreek Hill for this team. No problem. Everyone else is stepping up. Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Thank you very much. Also, their run game has taken a really big leap, too. And the Raiders defense, they're not a team that forces turnovers. They only have 3 so far this season. Max Crosby, I know he's really good. He already has 4 sacks in the season, 8 tackles for loss. But the Kansas City O-line has only allowed 5 sacks all season long so far. They're one of the best in the league. Now, Kansas City defense. They're 5th in the league in DVOA against the run. Big against the Raiders team who needs their run game. You look at Josh Jacobs. They look to him a lot. They play through him a lot. And he carried them last week with 177 yards from scrimmage. He's not going to be able to do that against Kansas City and their defense. Kansas City's coming off of a huge win last week against Tampa Bay, against the Bucks. Now they're home. It's a divisional game. Patty Ice is 3-1 at Arrowhead against the Raiders. And also those 3 wins were by 30-plus points. And Kansas City is also 12-6 against the spread under Andy Reid against Vegas, and the Raiders 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 games against Kansas City. The trend is my friend here in this spot. I like KC laying the points. I think they're going to come out. They want to make a statement in their division, and they're going to do it at home at Arrowhead in front of a home crowd, laying the 7 points. Lock it up. Lock it in, baby.
Do it up.
Let's bet it. Presented by Superbook Sports, we are putting a bow on Week 5 NFL tonight. The Raiders taking on the Chiefs. Best of luck with your bets tonight, you guys. That's Jared Smith. I'm Lauren Jabara. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Let's get it. Let's bet it.